The way the roundhouse works is quite fascinating. 95% of roundhouses face the morning sun, so they're usually pointing towards the east or slightly south. We think this is to pick up the morning light. You get a good clean light in the morning when all the difficult tasks can be done. The doors on a roundhouse are quite often planked or a wooden frame and stretched with skins. We have in the archaeology examples of latches and latch lifters, so we know that there was a fastener of some kind, not necessarily how we would think a lock, but certainly a latch. The fire itself is kept going 24 hours a day, partially to keep the house warm and keep it bug-free, but also as part of the social setup of a house. If somebody turns up on your doorstep, you're obliged to feed them before you ask who they are. And if you've got a cold cauldron, you would be disgraced. It's part of the social system. Children, of course, would be brought up with a fire being in their house from the time they could crawl, so they would very quickly learn not to go near the fire. And of course, they would grow up learning how to control the fire as well. So as far as safety is concerned, we would think probably very few accidents, because it was part of daily life. The gas from the fire actually accumulates in the roof space, means there's no oxygen in the roof space, so any sparks coming up off the fire go out, so you cannot set fire to your roundhouse from the inside, and the smoke filters out through the thatch because the thatch is not a solid surface. So you've got a constant filtering of smoke out through the thatch, maintaining a dry roof, and it also keeps it free of insects. One secondary effect, of course, is you can actually hang food in the roof to dry and to smoke. There are no windows in a roundhouse. There would be no way of actually sealing the wall from the weather. If you put a hole in the wall, the wind would actually whistle through your house, stir up the smoke, and actually keep the temperature down in the house. There are beds in the house as well. They tend to be on the right-hand side. That's the private area, and that area doesn't get light until much later in the day. Whereas the kitchen area on the left gets the morning light, and that's where the woman would be working during the morning. No running water, which means no baths, no flushing toilets. Toilets, by the way, if you need to go, you would go out in the fields if you're working out there. Perhaps you'd have a pot in the house for overnight use, but otherwise it's used for fertilizer. The wee itself is kept separately and allowed to go stale. You know what dry, stale wee smells like, very high in ammonia. That can be used for the dyeing process, that's putting colour on cloth, and it's also used for tanning leather, so nothing is wasted. The solids themselves go as fertiliser on the fields. On larger settlements, where you've got a number of houses, that would be put in a pit and left to decay. On a small settlement, it would simply be taken out in the bucket and tipped onto the fields.